Yo, what's good? I appreciate everybody for tuning in this late night. I'm Marcus, the Debt Free Dad, where we talk finances and attorney reactions. And most of the things we react to have some financial nexus in there. Hey, as always, I got to toss a disclaimer out. I'm a licensed attorney, licensed in several places, but not your attorney. Seek a professional in anything in your area. Make sure they actually are who they say they are and can do what they say they assert they can do. Make sure they actually have the certifications and credentials that they telling you they have, so you don't get finessed. Now, this is going to be interesting because there's two stories. I actually was going to pre-record these videos, and I was like, you know what? It's easy if I just jump on the live on a late night and talk about it. So, our main topic, we covering two stories today. Both of these stories about celebrities who choices, male celebrities who choices have landed them in situations that definitely are not the best situations. We're going to talk a little bit about them. They got legal nexuses, they got a financial nexus. It is what it is. So let's go ahead and talk about that first story. Like I say all the time, one of the most important vital decisions you'll make regarding your finances is the person who you choose to spend your life with, or in the alternative, the person who you choose to procreate with. Okay. Those two choices are vital and paramount to your not only your financial success where you fall at, but also just how your overall life play out because they have a big ass impact. So we're going to pivot and talk about Tyrese before we get on Deshaun Watson. And this is wild because I just watched like Breakfast Club interview with Tyrese where he actually had me rolling where he was talking about his diamond earrings get stolen. That's why he get fake jewelry. But Tyrese landed himself in jail because of something that happens a lot, and it's a good and an evil. We talked about it before on this channel. Child support. This dude ended up being arrested for child support. I personally can't relate, but I have some familiarity because I've represented persons who were delinquent in child support and were looking at going in custody. So let's go ahead and pull this article up. This is going to be one we're going to just read through real quick. All right, let's go ahead and pull this article up. Tyrese Gibson is facing some legal trouble. The Fast and Furious star was temporarily detained and later released in Georgia after failing to pay his $10,000 court ordered monthly child support for his daughter, Soraya. South Fulton County Public Information Officer confirmed to the New York Post. Confirmed to the New York Post. Tyree, who shares her with ex-wife Samantha Lee, was in court on September 9th. Judge Kevin Farmer, who is presiding over the case in Fulton County, placed him into contempt of court and had him escorted out after he failed to pay the $10,000 child support fee, which he was set to begin paying last April, according to outlets. The director of communications at the Fulton County Sheriff Office also confirmed to the Post that Gibson is not currently in custody. E News has reached out to his reps. The same day, Tyrese, who shares Shayla, 17, with his ex-wife Norma Gibson, posted photos of his kids on Instagram. The love that a father can have for his children can't quite be explained. All right, long story short of Tyrese's situation is, yo, at one point, his ex-wife to his youngest daughter, who this situation is about, she found out some information about how much money he made from like the latest Fast and the Furious and his new movies. And she actually went back to court to get his child support increase. And so now he's in this constant battle of, hey, the court order is demanding him to pay this much child support. She's saying his income is this. He says his income is that. And quiet as it kept, I'm not going to delve deep into it, but y'all can check out. I think the lead attorney did a video on this. Tyrese really got screwed over because on his child support, the way the court order was written, it actually put him in a position where he really didn't have a fight in the game, and it was just a uphill battle from there. Long story short, bro, you got money, you got an ex. Child support is a gift and a curse. I do agree that there are instances where people need to be on child support, men and women. Just ask Halle Berry do it, men and women probably have to be child support to encourage them to do the right thing. But a lot of times is exploited uh, or is weaponized. And I'm just be honest, fellas, I can't speak from personal experience, but I can speak from who I've seen in cases I have witnessed while I was in court representing them. Child support is really a big uphill battle for fellas most of the time. So, hey, I wanted to just highlight that story. Tyrese out of custody, but was temporarily detained. And now we're going to pivot and talk about what we need to talk about. Deshaun Watson. Now, I don't know if y'all watching or y'all NFL fans, right? I'm a Commanders fan. Yeah, anybody who watched the channel know that, hey, I'm a Washington guy. Win, lose, no matter how shitty they are, I'm a Washington guy. However painful it may be for me to maintain this loyalty. But people at one point were saying Washington should trade everything to get Deshaun Watson at quarterback. Those people were idiots. Anybody who actually wanted Deshaun Watson on their team after this, in my personal opinion, were terrible GMs and terrible business person. It was only one stupid ass team out there who were willing to give Deshaun Watson the money that he got on a fully guaranteed contract. It's the Cleveland Browns, and now he's playing like absolute ass. Now you're like DFD. Why is him playing like trash pertinent to his actual lawsuit? Because if you aren't playing like trash, the team will go through any hurdle that they can to try to protect you because you're an asset to them. When you're playing like trash and they owe you a lot of money, they like, man, this dude suck. And he got all this drama going on. So ultimately, it's going to impact their bottom line and it could impact Deshaun Watson's bottom line. I believe he's owed somewhere in 130 some odd $1 million left on this lawsuit. I mean, left on his NFL contract. I think he got like 135, 138 remaining on his NFL contract. So 26 previous lawsuits related to, let's just say, weird conduct. Of the 26 previous lawsuits prior to the one that we're talking about tonight, he settled 23 of those lawsuits. And all of the lawsuits had similar allegations to what we're going to dive into tonight. It's kind of weird, actually. Like, allegedly, hypothetically, allegedly, he meets women on social media platform. I don't know, Instagram, Facebook, Black Planet. I don't know which one it is in particular, but the common occurrence was he meet women on social media platforms. At some point, there's an interaction at his residence or their residence, and for some reason, he always requests a massage, and it goes absolutely batshit terribly wrong into conduct that could potentially be criminal conduct. Now, for his sake, he's actually fortunate as hell. 26 lawsuits, no criminal charges, no indictment. But now he has a big target on his back because, hey, now let's just keep it a buck. We could all agree to disagree, but when you have 26 lawsuits saying that a certain type of conduct occurred, right? I'm not like, I'm not. Hey, shout out to you, R. Royster, for the first comment. What is his handle? I scared. Look, when you gotta, I will check it out. Deshaun Watson. It's probably like at Deshaun Watson or something like that. But essentially, when you have 26 instances in court where lawsuits were filed with similar conduct, I'm not saying all of them happen. I'm not, but chances are two things happen. There are probably some of those cases that are legit cases, that are real cases where the conduct potentially happened or could have happened. Then there's going to be a handful of cases where that conduct may not have happened, but it is a money grab. Two things can be true. But because of his conduct, because of his bad decisions to meet girls on social media and always want massages, now now he finds himself facing lawsuit number 27 from an unidentified Jane Doe. Let me go ahead and cue up the video so we can go through this video. Then we're gonna dive in and talk about it. Oh wait, let me grab the. Let me get the feed active. My bad, my bad. Little struggle streaming going on. All right, there we go. All right, let's dive in.
Alert.
We start with breaking news tonight involving more controversy surrounding Deshaun Watson. Thanks for joining us at 10. I'm Caitlin McCarthy in for Chris Fry. A 27th woman is accusing the Browns quarterback of sexual misconduct.
27. Like, hey, again, of the 27, 23 were settled. Others are in a holding pattern. I'm not saying anything happened, but hey, out of 27, there's going to be some valid claims in there and probably some non-valid claims in there. You know the saying, where there's smoke, there's fire. He settled 23 of the 27. That's not indicative of guilt, but y'all know how settlements kind of go. We just been through the whole settlement thing with Diddy, right? We saw that settlement happen after one. I literally filmed the video, then the next day he settled and he was like, oh, I'm not doing this. It's just legal. And then video came out that made him and showed the monster that he actually was. So, hey, a lot of exposure here. Luckily, no criminal indictment for him at this point.
In for Chris Fry. A 27th woman is accusing the Browns quarterback of sexual misconduct.
27 is
Investigator
wow.
Kelly Kennedy has a lawsuit and breaks down the latest and most serious allegations.
So we already know that dozens of women have accused Deshaun Watson of sexual misconduct during massages. But the woman in this lawsuit is not a masseuse, just a woman who met Watson at a bar. She claims she invited him over to her home for dinner, and then he raped her. The lawsuit, filed Monday morning by a Jane Doe in Texas, accuses the Browns quarterback of sexual assault. Court documents say the woman met Watson at a bar in 2020 and he asked her for her number. A few months later, he asked her to meet him for a date at the Houston Galleria. Unsure about being seen with the NFL player in public, the lawsuit says she invited him to her apartment for dinner instead. The lawsuit claims Watson became angry when he couldn't find Jane Doe's apartment and that he started yelling at her on the phone and told her.
Now, real quick, I was actually reading through this. And as I was reading through this, it was, I don't know, like sometimes you can't put yourself, like ladies, fellas, we talk about this all the time. You can't put yourself in a position where you just potentially vulnerable, right? It said in the article I read that I guess Deshaun wanted to meet her at like the Galleria, but she was like, nah, this dude's a superstar celebrity. I don't want to be in the public limelight. So they subsequently agreed to meet at her home. Okay. I don't know. I think this was filed and this occurred in 2022, I believe. So at that point, she's probably not familiar or have no idea of the consistent pattern of allegations associated with this person. But she decides to meet this guy at her house. I think that's actually kind of wild and generally a bad idea. Then at some point, he can't find a direction, so he calls and he's like wilding out on the phone, allegedly. If you invite somebody to your house, again, and I'm not saying that this didn't happen, but just from a commonsensical standpoint, if you inviting somebody to your house who you never met before outside of one instance at a bar, and they can't find your crib, so they start wilding out over the phone, that's probably like a big ass red flag where it probably should give you some cause to pause.
Her that he, quote, doesn't have time for this. Documents say when Watson found her apartment, the woman asked him to sit on the couch as she finished her makeup. She alleges a few minutes later she was shocked when she saw Watson had stripped naked and was lying in her bed face down.
Again, all of this is conduct that's exactly similar to the previous 26 lawsuits that were filed. I think 14 of those alleged victims were actually identified. I'm sure the settlements he didn't. The settlements probably a condition of the settlement was that he said, "Hey, no admission of liability or fault." I mean, a good attorney would have wrote that up. But this is all conduct consistent with what we've heard in the previous lawsuits.
Court documents say Watson aggressively pressured the woman to massage his buttocks. The lawsuit says the woman was, quote, terrified to be alone with the man who was much bigger than her and had just been aggressive on the phone.
All right, that's I mean, a common point is a nuanced legal point because there's an imbalance in power. The only thing that just doesn't make it make sense, like this dude is an NFL player again, and not saying this didn't happen, but it's just you got to make it make sense to me. This is how a jury would actually look at it. This guy's an NFL player. This guy is substantially bigger than you, can overpower you. He showed aggressive behavior before he got to your place, and you were still comfortable with allowing him to actually come to your place. Now, when he's get aggressive, you're like, he's aggressive at home. Like, just be cautious and cognizant of what should have been a red flag on the front end. But again, all consistent with what we've seen or heard about Deshaun Watson and seen in previous lawsuits.
She started to rub his back, but Watson kept insisting she rub his buttocks instead.
What's up with the glutes, man? This dude keeps trying to get his cheeks rubbed on too. This is wild.
Court documents say Watson then turned over and demanded she massage him in his groin area. Court documents allege the quarterback.
All right, I'm just move forward a little bit because I'm just YouTube would be a little funky with certain phrases.
And raped her. The lawsuit says, quote, Jane Doe felt paralyzed, unsure if she should risk her safety by trying to stop Watson or endure his assault. Documents say after several minutes of being assaulted, Jane Doe, quote, finally gathered the courage and strength to escape Watson. It says she ran and picked up a heavy object in self-defense and
I would want to know what was the heavy object was. What was it that you ran and picked up? That's an important detail. And the object that you picked up, where was it in proximity to where the alleged act occurred? That's an important detail, an important fact, and is weird not to specifically say that. Like, oh, I was able to get away and I grabbed a frying pan out of the kitchen. That's normally people will exactly explain it like that. So it's weird that that's not expressly articulated. In the complaint.
Yelled at him to leave. The lawsuit says he angrily stormed out of her apartment. During the 2022 season, Watson was suspended for 11 games related to previous sexual misconduct allegations. Now, this woman is suing Watson for at least $1 million in damages. I did reach out to Watson's attorney as well as the alleged victim's attorney and the Cleveland Browns, but so far, I haven't heard back from any of them. Reporting in Cleveland, I'm Kelly Kennedy, 19 News. Well, the legal
alert.
All right, now a few things before we close out this video because we're not going to be here long. If I was his counsel, if I was Deshaun Watson's attorney at this point, if she's asking for almost $1 million, I'm gonna be like, yo, go ahead and slide that $1 million over, bro. You already settled. Like at this point, you've already settled 23 out of the previous 26 allegations. This $1 million ain't gonna hurt you. You got a 200 or something fully guaranteed NFL contract, even though you playing like trash. The best thing he could do is resolve this and get it out of the way. Because this isn't the first allegation. This is the 27th allegation. And the fact that you settled 23, every woman who came in contact with you know that, hey, you're willing to pay to make this go away. All right. Every woman who's been in contact with him know that he's willing to pay to make this go away. Again, not saying the claims aren't valid, that they didn't happen, but they know, hey, this dude is actually going to resolve these to get him out of the way. Now, how is his money potentially at issue? A few reasons. One, even though his contract is fully guaranteed, most NFL contracts, and I'm sure if I signed a guy who had 26 allegations of some type of SA impropriety with massages and social medias, I'm damn sure putting the morality clause in that contract because I know this dude got a problem, right? I mean, let's just be honest. Those guys aren't stupid. Yeah, you hit it on the head. Those guys aren't stupid. They, in most contracts, do have some morality clause in them. So I'm sure they're looking right now, and like I said, he's playing like ass too. So I would be looking at whatever morality clause provision is in his contract to get it up out of there. So that's way number one that he's going to potentially lose a lot of money, because that morality clause most times allows them to terminate that contract immediately at a particular point, and they don't even have to pay any of the forward money, the money that's owed on the back end, which would be great. Now, sometimes they'll arbitrate that out, or they'll negotiate that, like, hey, I'll go away, but you can give me 25 cents on the dollar for all the futures monies. But most of those contracts say, hey, if you violate this clause, we can get out immediately. The other way that it's going to have a fiscal impact is Deshaun Watson actually might be suspended again. His first suspension was related to all of those previous allegations, but there is language that say, hey, if you have a new allegation, we reserve the right to issue a new sanction. And I'm going to just be honest, like, they'll probably look at when the conduct occurred, because the conduct occurred kind of in a similar time frame as the previous conduct. He will make the argument, and I think that he should make the argument. The argument I would make if I was his attorney would be like, look, this isn't new conduct. This is something that occurred during the same time frame as the others. We've already had a sanction. We already had a punishment for that, where we were suspended for over a year. So there shouldn't be any future suspensions. But I'm sure the NFL is going to argue counter. Hey, this is a new instance. Even though it occurred during that time frame, this is new because we're just finding out about it. Our previous agreement only applied to sanctions for everything that you had that was already currently in the ether. Now this is something new that's being added to the pot. Therefore, you can get a new sanction. So it's going to be an absolute shit show. In addition to him potentially losing future monies for a morality clause, there may be some clawback provision. It may be some clawback provision to allow them to reach back and take some of the past monies as well. So it's going to be an absolute shit show for this dude. Oh, no worries, no worries. Hey, I appreciate you. I appreciate you for tuning in. We're going to just do a quick video today, in and out. The bottom line, big takeaway from this, 27 allegations of the exact same or similar conduct. Long story short, wrapped up in those 27 are going to be some that are legit, and probably also going to be some that are just money grabs, where the conduct probably couldn't have happened or probably been consensual. You're going to have all of that in there. And because of his bad decision that he has made early on in his career, this shit is going to kick him in the ass financially moving forward. Now he at risk of losing $138 million in future money, potentially have some of his earnings that he already got clawed back. Him getting signed with another team after this, considering he's trashed and he has all this shit out there, nobody's going to sign this dude. If another team signs Deshaun Watson, if the Browns let him go, they are the absolute stupidest organization, business person, GM in the fucking world. I just don't see it happening. I have no idea who he is, but he's here to learn. Deshaun Watson, NFL quarterback. And yeah, we just dived into it. And it's not going to be a long video tonight, but the big takeaway from this is your actions and your conduct can come back and bite you in the ass. And sometimes the consequences of that conduct aren't always immediate. You can do some shit today and be like, oh man, I'm good. Nothing going to happen to me. I'm straight. In 5 years from now, the terrible conduct that you engaged in right now comes back and has an outcome and impacts you in the future 5, 6, 7, 9 years from now. And that's exactly what Deshaun Watson is seeing. So it's going to be interesting to see how this play out. Right now, the victim plaintiff in the case is identified as Jane Doe, rightfully so, because for a few reasons. One, legally, you don't want to face the embarrassment of this type of lawsuit and this type of allegation. So I understand why you would Jane Doe it. The other reason you don't want to kind of have your name out there is because Deshaun Watson is a person who has some types of resources. Now, I don't think he's I was about to say I don't think he's stupid, but I don't know. I don't know. He might be a little bit stupid. 27 similar instances of social media reach outs and massages that turns into fucking lawsuits just screams stupidity to me, whether they're true or false. And you settle 23 of them, that screams stupidity. But I don't think that he's unaware. So if these allegations are true, hopefully he has enough common sense to be able to understand and remember, okay, this is Sheila or Angela or Renee. I named all the women in the LL Cool J song. But maybe he has the ability to be able to identify who this is. But it looks like this conduct is so prevalent, he probably don't know who these women were. He may not can remember them. We don't know how many alleged. 27 cases, it could be 56 cases out there for all we know. So, but I think her being unidentified as Jane Doe is the best route to go. It's embarrassing. He has the means and ability to potentially make her life problematic. She's asking for almost $1 million. And I guarantee you he's just going to go. Actually, if I was his attorney, I'd be like, man, just give her 1.25 and just make this go away. You just need to go ahead and set a certain percentage of your income into an account that's an investment account that's growing interest, and you're just going to use that to pay victims moving forward. Because once you've settled all the legit cases that are actually valid and all the bogus cases, all of that shit is coming and it's all going to cost you. If it's a legit case, you're going to have to pay attorneys to defend it. You're going to have to probably, he ain't got no endorsement because he's trash and all this drama, but now you're risking your future contract and actual time in court, time away from the team. If you actually got to go and appear in court, that's a cost. If it's a bogus claim, because there are some money grabbers out there, not saying this is one of those instances, but that shit does happen. Again, you got to treat it if it's a valid claim. You're going to have to pay a high-ass attorney millions of dollars to represent you. You're going to have to litigate the matter. You're going to have to negotiate a settlement, actually pay a settlement, and deal with the same sanctions. The Browns is going to have women's groups coming back out to their training camp and coming back out to their games, boycotting you, and you playing like ass. So they're probably going to put the backup quarterback in. So there's a lot of consequences due to stupid ass conduct, stupid ass things that you do. Yeah. Is he a nudist? Nah, it's mad weird. He just has this weird massage fetish thing. I don't understand it. He's a multi-millionaire NFL superstar. He could actually bro, you could literally just actually date a woman who actually you got so much money and so much access. He could literally date a woman who would just be like, oh, okay, you like massages that end with some freakiness, getting your cheeks rubbed going on, where she can make that happen with probably her friends and all of that. To reach out on social media, you as the individual, to have these instances happen is fucking crazy. It's crazy, but that's his MO. It would be reach out on social media. This is actually a little different because he met her in person, face to face, which isn't the norm. The MO of the previous 26 lawsuits was he would just go through social media, see something he liked, and just shoot him a random message like, hey, I just want y'all to know that I like y'all. You interested in coming over my house to give me a massage? And you, Deshaun Watson, you don't think they're going to come over there? Like, dude, you made the Pro Bowl 3 years in a row. You was third runner-up for the MVP at one point. They coming over there, especially before they knew all your creepy-ass allegations came out. But he has just a weird-ass MO. He needs to either get married or become celibate. Yeah. Neither one will work because it's I don't even think it's weird. Let me tell you. At one point, I represented a couple of creeps, right, as a young defense attorney, and that was when I realized I was that's actually why I started doing white collar crimes, because I was a tax nerd. I took a bunch of tax courses in law school. And, when you start out as a defense attorney, you just got kind of everything. And I had a couple cases with some guys who were creeps. And I realized early on, I was like, man, I don't like representing these fucking creeps. I just don't. Even though they're allegations, we're arguing over truth or innocence. And there were some who I represented where I was like, oh, no, this dude's guilty as hell. It is what it is. The evidence shows that you're guilty. And there's some guys I represented where I was like, oh no, this dude didn't do this. So you see it on both sides. But when people have weird proclivities like this, it's not about, oh, it's just so many fine women out there. It's kind of a control power thing. He just likes the randomness of it. So getting married isn't going to solve anything for him because he's going to be like, oh man, I don't want this same woman giving me my butt cheeks, getting my cheeks massaged every night by this same woman. Somebody like that, they enjoy the thrill of the hunt, the thrill of the randomness, the variety, all of that stuff. So I think no matter what he does, it's going to be a problem. And that was my point exactly. Like, hey, I'm not trying to victim blame, but at some point you got to use a little common sense. And I'm gonna tell you a story about a guy I represented who was found not guilty, and it actually worked out very well for him in his favor. And he didn't do it. The evidence just yelled that he didn't do it. But yeah, I thought the same thing. It made absolutely no sense. You didn't want to meet him, and they didn't say it in this news article, but they wanted to meet in the Galleria, and she was like, no, you didn't want to meet him in a public place, but you were cool with meeting him at your home. And before he got to your house, because he couldn't find it, he was wilding out like, yo, I can't find your house. I don't got time for this, blah, 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 acting belligerent according to you. After that, you still was like, oh, let me give you the directions so you can get to my house. Were you really scared of him at that point? It sounds kind of weird. Not saying this didn't happen, but generally, I got a daughter. If you invite a person to your house and they can't find your damn house and they call you for directions and they start to spaz out and yell and wilding out, let that motherfucker stay lost. Pardon my language, but let that guy stay lost. That's a guy who doesn't need to come to your house, because something small as finding directions shouldn't lead to you having an emotional outburst of frustration and anger. That's a big, big red flag that she avoided, and it just is a weird ass red flag to avoid. I agree with that completely. Hey, NFL player, hey, probably he get paid to work out, so I'm sure he has an outstanding physique. But I don't know. I felt like she had a clue to avoid this. Not saying that, hey, she reserved the right to invite him over, and if these allegations are true, he's absolutely a terrible person and a creep and a monster. If these allegations are true, but the signs were there to give you a warning that you probably shouldn't rock with this guy and invite him to your house where you're just there by yourself, in my opinion. Yeah, I would never want to be a celebrity or sports musicians or politicians, etc., as if I could, but I would not want to be accused of such things. Not saying this did or didn't happen. I agree. It's just it's interesting because I think the goal for most Americans, and this is kind of a money thing, but I don't know. How do you define rich and how do you define wealthy? Okay, I actually had this conversation with my son, and I define rich as, this is my definition of rich, and it's not a dollar amount. It's just an easy situation. You either have these things or you don't. This is my definition of rich, right? And rich versus wealthy versus being a celebrity, because they're three different things. For me, my son thinks it's the opposite, but rich to me is the only debt you have is a mortgage or a reasonable car payment, right? So no debt outside of a mortgage and probably a car payment that's actually affordable. I used to be a big stickler, like no car notes, but no, sometimes it's advantageous to have a car note with a warranty on that shit. I found that out the hard way. But number one, for my definition of rich, you have to, again, no credit card debt, no stupid debt, a mortgage that's reasonable, a car note that's reasonable. That's number one. Number two is, after you pay your bills, you have enough money to put a percentage of 15 to 20% in an investment account, and you have the ability to save a little. You don't got to save a large percentage, 15 or 20%, but you put in some in savings. So no real non-secure debt outside of a mortgage and a car. After you pay your bills, you have enough money to invest. After you pay your bills, you have enough money to save. And you actually have enough money to do a little bit extra. And what's a little bit extra? A little bit extra is, okay, I want to go on vacation, or if an emergency comes up, I can adjust some things in the budget where I can still pay for it and don't got to actually use what I have in my emergency fund. That's rich. All right. Wealthy for me is you just sitting on money where you actually don't have to work if you choose not to. You have assets that are making enough for you to live on indefinitely. Now, celebrity. A celebrity could be broke as hell. You could be broke famous, like an artist who had a popping song on TikTok, but terrible with money, but everybody know who you are. You could be broke rich. You could be broke wealthy. The problem with being a celebrity is everybody knows who you are. One, you can't go nowhere in fucking public. That shit would drive me crazy. The way my military PTSD is set up, I couldn't go somewhere in public and everybody coming up to me. That would be a problem. But you can't go nowhere in public. And because you're a celebrity, even if you're a broke celebrity, you can have no money. But if you're a celebrity because you got a song that blew up on TikTok and everybody's on you in the moment, even though you didn't capitalize and don't have the money, people are going to automatically assume and impute a certain amount of income, a certain amount of riches or wealth on you, and it does make you a target. So I agree with that completely. I think the best thing to be for me is I would rather be someone who, hey, I'm financially stable, I can pay all my bills, I can stash a little bit. And if I am sitting on somebody, nobody know that I'm sitting on it. You know what I mean? I'm driving my modest 2007 car that's paid for. I'm riding my modest 2007 motorcycle that's paid for, all that I bought used. Like, to me, that's the best way to be. I wouldn't like the celebrity or the fame. I do agree that it makes you a target. Yeah, I do agree on the laws or they comment. Yep, that's fair. But yeah, that's it for this video. The big takeaway from this is we had two stories of two gentlemen who are celebrities or athletes who, over the course of their career, made a substantial amount of money. And because of their decisions, they are looking at or currently facing some type of risk of financial turmoil. Keep your head on the swivel. Don't make dumbass decisions. Like, I know it seems good in the moment. You're like, yo, this is a great idea. Oh, let me give y'all the story real quick. There's two stories about why you shouldn't make dumb decisions. This first story is in my non-attorney days. I was in the military. And in the military, I was telling my son, we would go out to the club Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and maybe on Wednesday, because Wednesdays was lady night. That's all you do. You young, you got a little bit of money in the bank. You just going out every night. You living overseas, different clubs, traveling and everything. And I never forget. I don't know if I told this story on here, but we going to the club. Actually, one time I didn't drive. I rode with my homeboy. And, you coming from the club, you always want to have a couple of ladies when you're coming from the club. So we had a couple of ladies in the car, and it was like me and my homeboy. And they were like doing this truth or dare thing. And my boy was like, hey, I bet y'all won't kiss each other. And they start kissing each other. So now, as young people, you like, oh, man, that's wild. They kissing each other. You like, oh, man, this is going to get crazy, right? This is going to get crazy. So we get back to the barracks. And if y'all don't know, barracks are set up like a dormitory. You may have your own room and a bathroom, but they have like a community kitchen that everybody could share. So we get back to the barracks and, we run into other people. And at this point, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to go back to the crib. And everybody's like, oh, man, why you going back? I was just like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to go back to the crib. Something inside just told me, you might want to go back to the crib on this one. I don't know what it was, if it was intuition, if it was God, if it was the ancestors on the ancestral plane reaching out to me. And literally, I was probably like 21 at the time. I was like, oh, man, this is about to be great. But soon as we was walking through the hallway, we were talking to a couple of other people, and we got to the door, and like, oh, man, we go through this door, it might go down. As soon as we got to that door, I was like, nah, man, I'm rolling out. And so I left and went back to the crib. I walked back. I stayed in a different building. I left, went to another building. And the next day, of course, you see your boys and they're like, "Oh man, you missed it, man. It was wild. It was a great time. It was crazy." And I'm like, "Oh, that sound wild, man. Hey, shout out to you. Shout out to you." Lo and behold, what happened from that? Some allegations came up. Military police was involved. It was a big investigation. I was like, you know what? In my head, I was like, man, I'm glad I decided to, you know what? I don't want to hang out with these guys. Let me peel out and go to my room, because this is something that could look like a weird situation, or a weird situation could develop. So that's one of the prime examples of, hey, sometimes you may find yourself in a situation where you're like, oh man, this might be cool. This might be fun. But you got to kind of be able to look at it objectively and stand back and look at it. Now, the next story was, I'm a defense attorney, and I was representing the guy who was charged with a similar Deshaun Watson type of allegation. But this was against his stepdaughter. Now, what do you think happened? What do you think is going to happen to a relationship, right? Let's just ask. Let me see real quick. Don't be a Bill Cosby. Hey, shout out to Bill Cosby's attorney, though. They found a great loophole. That was actually some good attorney work. Don't be a Bill Clinton, right? All right. You can say you can throw mostly any politician in there and say don't be before that. But I'm representing this guy. He was married. He was charged with a Deshaun Watson type of allegation against his stepdaughter. His stepdaughter, I think, was like 16 or 15, something like that. Under the age of 18, clearly. What do you think is going to happen? Whether it's true or false, once those allegations come up, that marriage is officially over. I don't care what you say. I don't care how much y'all love each other. That guy could go to trial and be found not guilty. It's a wrap. Because as a mother, if your daughter tells you something like that is going to happen, who are you going to... Well, not all the time, because there are some parents out there who are wild and probably shouldn't be parents. But generally, as a parent, if you're a good parent who's worth a damn, if your child tells you something like that, you're going to 100% believe your child, and you might actually go to prison for murder. So that relationship, just off of those accusations, were completely over. Well, it was a wrap. So now he's out of the house. She's in the house with her daughter because of these allegations that came up. Because think about it, something like this in a small town, it could be kind of newsworthy. Because these allegations up, this dude lost his job. And now we're in court, and this shit isn't going to get settled or resolved. I mean, if the first appearance was in February, it may be 6 to 8 to 12 months before we actually go to court. So I'm representing this guy. He's adamant, like, no, this didn't happen. He's telling me about the behavior of the daughter. He says, hey, the daughter is wild. We would catch her leaving the house all hours of the night, boys in the house and everything. And so what happened was, he said that his stepdaughter was upset at him because he disciplined her. He gave her a whipping, ass whipping. Now, didn't cross the line of abuse. It fell right at that legal line of discipline. You have a legal right to discipline your child. There's a line here. Discipline is on one side, abuse is on the other. From what he said, it fell on the discipline side of the game. And he said, because she's wilding out in her conduct, and the exact words he told me, he was like, I would rather discipline her now for her conduct, so hopefully she can learn from it. Me and my wife discipline her now, so because I don't want the justice system to discipline her, or I don't want some guy she meet on the street who's a bad person to discipline her. Or, I would rather her try to get that lesson learned early from me. Like, there's consequences to your actions, and these things aren't going to be acceptable while you're in my house. So I'm like, cool, bet. I agree with his position in that discussion. And so one of the first things that I did, and I've always done, don't marry a gold digger. I mean, the pretty face. I agree with that 100%. So one of the things I would always do as a defense attorney, it's probably good to do as a prosecutor or any type of investigator. People never block their social media accounts. So I would go on social media and then go to that particular day, especially younger people, teenagers. If they're upset about something, they're going to put a post about it. They may do a live stream. And so when I went to that day on her social media account that this alleged conduct happened, she had a whole rant on there about how she didn't like her stepfather because, and she talked about coming in late and being caught and being disciplined and everything. So I'm really starting to believe his story. I'm looking at her background, and again, hey, young lady was she was a child, but she had a background that would be consistent with one that you may not believe the stories. There was some school misconduct issues where truthfulness was at play. So we ended up going to trial. And of course, the prosecution didn't want it to go to trial because in these types of cases, even with adult victims, it's hard to get convictions if you have to go to trial because a lot of times the victims don't want to go on the stand and relive that trauma by explaining what happened, explaining it to strangers, explaining it to the people sitting in the courtroom who's just there for their case. So we end up going to trial. Once the daughter's on the stand, I cross-examine her. And during cross-examining, I already knew I could elicit what I wanted to elicit out of her. So I pretty much attacked her lack of truthfulness. I was like, hey, are you someone who's always told the truth? And she would say, yeah, I generally tell the truth. And then I would kind of go down this hole and talk about instances where I knew that it was a fabrication or a lie told, and it was proven that a lie was told. Essentially, long story short, she broke down on the stand and said that, she broke down on the stand and was like, it was all made up. I was mad because he caught me coming in at like 2 a.m. and disciplined me. She just broke down, and this guy ends up being found not guilty. So it was absolutely great. But his life was completely fucked after that. After that, his job was already a wash. He couldn't necessarily go back to that job because it's been 8-9 months since the time he got fired because of these accusations and these charges, since the trial date when he was found not guilty. The relationship is ruined because I asked him, I wanted to know, hey, if I'm your attorney, I want to know. Because it could be two things. If it works out, that'll be great. If it doesn't work out, I need to refer you to somebody who can handle your divorce because I'm not going to do it. But the relationship was completely destroyed. Even though he was found not guilty and the daughter confessed to telling the lie, that guy couldn't get over the way his wife treated him in that situation. But to be fair, I understand why the wife treated him that way, because you would probably lean towards your child and taking the side of your child in that particular situation. So I don't know. It's an absolute mess. I agree. Don't marry a gold digger. Don't be a Bill Clinton and all of that stuff. Don't take them shopping on the first date. Just be careful who you interact with. Everything that glitters is not gold. Everybody is not out for your best interest. And a lot of people just want to use you for your resources. No matter how limited or unlimited those resources may be. So, nobody's going to look out for you like you. It's cool to be a good person. It's cool to be giving, but it's not cool to be naive, and you have to be able to identify risk. Yo, that's it for this video. I just wanted to do something short on the Deshaun Watson side of the game. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments if you're watching this on replay. For everybody in the chat, hey, salute to y'all. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Y'all have a good night and be blessed. Peace.